All right, so let's start with what we're not doing today. We are not heading to just another single small town and showing you all that you can do there. Instead, we're traveling to one of the least traveled regions of Texas. Why? Well, because the towns out here are frankly small and few and far between. But more importantly, the stories we're looking for are bigger than any town can contain. Seminole Canyon State Historical Park. This episode was made for y'all with the help of our awesome partners. Check the caption for more info. Seminole Canyon is an amazing place along the Rio Grande and the Texas-Mexico border. It's wild out here, and a far trip from places like, well, everywhere, except Del Rio, which is just 45 minutes away. So off we go to the edge of the world. Wow. I mean, you just look out the window and you get an idea of just sort of the scale of this place. It's just endless in every direction. You've got the hills, the scrubby trees and brush and cactus. You know, a lot of people like to go to places like Big Bend to sort of fall off the map, but truthfully, you get that exact same feeling out here too. Here we are at our first stop. This is the Seminole Canyon episode after all, so how about we start at Seminole Canyon State Park. One of Texas's most impressive natural wonders. Slicing through the Rocky Hills, Seminole Canyon winds for 3 miles before joining the Rio Grande. Its limestone cliffs, hundreds of feet tall, and its stories, thousands of years old. We're kicking off our exploration here at the Visitor Center with Park Superintendent Randy Rosales. And tell me a little bit about how this canyon was formed.
Well, you know, the canyon itself was actually formed over 100 million years ago, when over 3/4 of the state of Texas was under the shallow ocean. But the Gulf of Mexico extended all the way to where we are now. At one time, this area was covered in grasslands and forests. We had prehistoric elephants, camels, horses. Eventually that changed, and the climate changed, and it became more of a desert-like environment.
It was during those fertile years that the first known Texans appeared on the timeline of history, which many estimate at 12,000 years ago. We call them, well, truthfully, we don't know what to call them.
We don't know who they were. We don't have a name for them. They're not affiliated with any modern tribe that we know of today. What we do know is a little bit about their lifestyle based on the artifacts that we find, evidence that they've left behind, even some of the rock art that they've left behind.
It's the rock art of the Trans-Pecos and is considered some of the most extraordinary in the world. It's our only window into their world and has taught us many things about them. It seems they traveled in small, nomadic family groups, likely following the food, which consisted of animals like deer, bison, and fish. They hunted with atlatls, a sort of throwing spear long before the bow and arrow. They worshipped things, we believe. Sometimes animals, sometimes people, sometimes both. And just like modern Texans, well, they loved the stars and the land where they lived. But then they faded away, leaving behind their lives in stories of stone. And right below the Visitor Center is one of their largest shelters called Fate Bell, which we're setting out to see for ourselves. All right, so we are heading down into Seminole Canyon, which you can only do on a guided tour for a few reasons. One, because it is dangerous down in the canyon. But two, there's so many, important archaeological sites that they just got to make sure that folks are doing what they should. And you get a ranger to answer questions. We got Randy. Here's the stairs. Oh, now we're talking. Down on the canyon floor. Amazing to think of this canyon as the home of ancient peoples. The Fate Bell shelter takes some hiking, but it's totally worth it and full of amazing rock art.
So this is Fate Bell Annex.
Cool.
As you can see, many of the drawings are very abstract. They don't kind of make sense to what we normally recognize today. Like that, a lot of people call that a centipede or some sort of worm-looking drawing there.
I could see a centipede. He's got legs.
Then you have this drawing right over here. He seems to be holding up 2 stalks or maybe a she. Notice the long strandy hair flowing out of the top of its head.
What's our best guess at how old they are?
Well, these have been dated, carbon dated, to be an average about 4,000 years old.
Wow.
Making them the oldest known rock art sites in all of North America. Just kind of give you an idea of how old that is. These drawings were being painted at the very same time the Egyptian pyramids were being built.
Wow. So yeah, ancient. And just like the pyramids, they're covered in mystery. Some of the forms are clear, like the panthers, more commonly called mountain lions. Then there's the sunshine bugs, swimming fish people. I tell you, this stuff is crazy. The main shelter is impressive, and this would have been their home. This stone, their butcher block, still scarred by ancient tomahawk strikes. There are smoke stains on the ceiling from their campfires, and even remnants of their old bed mats. Almost the entire 450-foot length of this shelter is covered in paintings, and there are indeed some head scratchers. What is this?
This is a pretty unique site.
So what is it? Is it a winged deer man?
A lot of people call it the triad panel, even though there's actually 4 figures within it. Archaeologists believe that this represents some sort of ceremony. And they all seem to be gathered around this center being right in here. What we're surrounded by is rocks and minerals. And the neat thing about rocks and minerals is they come in all different colors. So they would grind them up into a powder, and so the black rocks would have given you the black color, your red rocks, the red color, and so on and so forth.
Very, very thought out.
It was a thought out plan, for sure.
Wow. This is kind of like the West Texas Chupacabra. He's like the winged deer man. Do people still see him in the canyon?
Along with the aliens, yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is the Marfalites. This is what's actually behind the Marfalites.
What came out, yeah.
Of course, with any mystery, there are, we'll call them theories about everything. But we'll stick with what we do know for today, which is that this part of the country is full of our most exquisite rock art. Much of it is on private property. However, one of the best sites is accessible by guided tours, overseen by the Whitty Museum in San Antonio. So we're meeting up with rock expert Dr. Brian Bales to visit the White Shaman Preserve. We're starting on top of the plateau, which is where these indigenous people would often set up camp and cook.
This whole area that you see around us is an active archaeological site. There are hundreds of what we call burned rock middens, which are the remains of cooking hearths, ancient cooking pits.
These middens could turn a cactus into a desert delicacy. These ancient people really knew how to make the most of their environment and use the land and all its bounty to their benefit. Oh, and what a beautiful land it was.
Wow. All right, so we are dropping down into the canyon. Hence the need for this chain right here. Nice to have something to hold on to. Woo! We're getting right up next to the Pecos River.
The cave is gated for obvious reasons, but truthfully, the steep hike provides a security system all its own. Oh, here we are. Goodness, that's awesome. The Cave of the White Shaman, painted an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 years ago.
We are looking at one of the most sacred sites in this beautiful landscape.
So I guess that's our White Shaman, right?
So that's the name it's gathered over the years. Whether it's a shaman or not is open to question. Shaman being a traditional healer.
There are as many interpretations of this painting as there are shapes on it. Some believe it to be an early creation story, or maybe a celestial map. But what we do know is that it had a story to tell, and still does. Cracking the code is the fun part.
This was painted more or less all at one time. All of the black was painted first, then all of the red, then all of the yellow, and then lastly the white. The artist or artists had a very clear story or idea in their head that they wanted to depict.
So what is the story? Well, it has something to do with the figures. But what are the figures?
So let's take this large figure here, and if you look very carefully, you'll see this sort of open mouth with some whiskers. All right, and then over here you'll see this fin, and some more fins here. So clearly reminiscent of a
Catfish.
catfish.
Aha! I can do this. I can study this
Which,
stuff.
if you look behind us, would be quite plentiful in the Pecos. And,
Oh, absolutely.
and it could also be a giant underwater creature in the underworld.
Okay, great. So it's either a catfish or that thing that chased Reba McEntire in the movie Tremors.
Certain forms like this, what we call a crenellated archer, with his arms outstretched, and very often with a deer antler headdress. This collection of imagery occurs at a number of different sites. So clearly, it was very rich and meaningful and important. This was not just a graffiti, you know, something somebody slapped on there. This was a powerful image.
Amazing. And right underneath our noses is some of the most exquisite rock art in the world.
Yep.
And we barely know that it exists. And we barely know anything about it. So much mystery.
There's a lot of mystery.
This rock art was here long before us, and with the work of the Whitty Museum and all of us together, well, it will be here long after. Hey, maybe in another 4,000 years, we'll figure out what it means.
We now interrupt this programming to remind you to like and subscribe. Now back to the road.
You know, I tell you, no matter how many years I travel Texas, I always find things that amaze me, like that cave art. God, it's incredible. But it's definitely worked up an appetite. So I know we felt like we've been in no man's land this entire time, but just a few miles away, there is a town inhabited by humans and tacos. You in the mood for tacos, Richie? Tacos. Yeah, all right, let's go.
Welcome to Comstock, a quiet desert town of about 500 built along the railroad line and that later got a highway. You know, I think most people would wonder why anyone would live out here. But for many of the locals, well, they wouldn't live anywhere else. For us, it's lunch. Time for Tacos Rosie. You know, it may be one of the only restaurants in the area, but that doesn't mean that they aren't making some of the tastiest tacos in Texas. Augustine and his wife run this joint, along with another in Del Rio.
So how did you get started in the taco business?
I get my retirement and I stay home for 2 months doing nothing. So I don't like that. So I came with my wife here and start cooking. She teach me.
Did you decide to go back to work, or was it your wife saying, get off the couch,
no.
go back?
No, I decided.
Hard work is in his blood and heart in his cooking, all made to order, like this chorizo and bean taco.
Is this a homemade flour tortilla?
Homemade. We make tortillas every day, fresh.
Oh, wow. Ah, look at the way that tears like a good homemade tortilla. Oh my gosh.
Today, well, I'm ordering up another house specialty, tacos tapatios. Not your typical tacos, and some might say, not even tacos at all.
Corn tortillas rolled.
Rolled, yes, sir.
So why is that not a flauta?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing. You hear that, folks? He settles it. Augustine just settled it once and for all. A flauta is also a taco, as long as it's a taco tapatio. Woo!
Easy.
The dish gets topped with a little crema, or lots of crema, cabbage, and tomatoes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Tacos tapatios. So the word tapatio means from Guadalajara, as in the capital city of Jalisco, which also gave us great things like mariachi music, tequila, and these delicious rolled tacos. Oh yeah, shredded beef in the middle of a delicious, crunchy, rolled, fried corn tortilla. Oh man, that's good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna spice it up. Look, a little homemade salsa verde. Oh yeah. I can't decide, like, is this finger food? Is this fork food? This is a strange dish to eat, but that doesn't undermine the deliciousness of this, let me tell you. Whoa. Yeah.
All right, back on the road and headed west toward the other town out here. But before we get there, a massive roadside stop that shows how big we truly like things here in Texas.
Check this out. So this is the Pecos Canyon, and spanning across it right there is the Pecos River High Bridge. At over 270 feet above the water, that is the tallest bridge in Texas. And you know us Texans, all right? We love biggest, tallest, widest, anything. That's our tallest bridge.
It's both deep and wide, at over 4 football fields long. And this roadside stop is a popular place to take in the majesty of both the bridge and the canyon.
I mean, the canyon itself is just this amazing natural beauty, but that right there is a feat of man-made ingenuity. I mean, they built the first span across this river in the late 1800s. I mean, can you imagine doing that without modern tools and equipment? And we got something to go see on that side of it. So let's go cross it. Wow. Oh, I've seen some beautiful canyons, and this is up there with the best of them. Look at the walls, these huge limestone cliffs. Hey there, Rio Grande, other side, Mexico, right outside my window.
Many say that crossing the Pecos is where the Wild West begins. So, amigos, welcome to the wild side.
All right, so we have officially crossed the Pecos River. Why? Well, because we got a run-in with the law coming up. The law west of the Pecos. And that's up here in Langtry.
A town that's very easy to miss because, well, it's almost a ghost town, and likely would be if it weren't for the TxDOT Visitor Center. But in the late 1800s, this was a bustling railroad stop, back when the Southern Transcontinental Railroad was being constructed, and Langtry filled up with migrant workers, railroad employees, and ranchers. Well, it became so wild out here, the traditional justice wouldn't stick. And so the Texas Rangers called in the one man who could tame it, Judge Roy Bean. And behind the visitor center still stands his Jersey Lilly Saloon, a place where time itself stands still. Bean was the self-proclaimed law west of the Pecos, both Langtry's judge and saloon owner in one bearded package. His ways were non-traditional, to say the least, often holding court in his bar with a jury made up of whoever happened to be drinking that day.
And how does the jury rule? Seems guilty to me.
Bean never sentenced anyone to jail because there was no jail in Langtry, so all crimes meant fines.
How much you got on you? I said, whoa, jingle jangle. $2 silver. You have paid the clerk. Now get on out of here. Don't ever let me catch you back in my saloon.
On one occasion, Bean was presented with an unknown corpse found in the desert, but carrying $40 and a pistol.
I do hereby charge this man with the crime of carrying a concealed weapon, which carries with it a fine of $20. Court costs will be $10, and then with burial fees at $10, brings total to, oh my goodness, $40 and a pistol. Case closed. Get the shovel.
Bean only had one book of laws, which he rarely consulted, opting instead for his own interpretations. And while he couldn't legally grant marriages, he often would, always ending the ceremony with,
May God have mercy on your souls.
the typical ending to death sentences. And while his methods were indeed madness, it's exactly what West Texas required. And the Jersey Lilly is part of his lasting legacy. And it's quite amazing that it's still standing after all these years.
So this part was the judge's old billiard hall, the legs from his billiard table. I mean, the whole thing kind of reads like a tall tale, but here's the photographic evidence, all right? I mean, it really existed. Yeah, and if he wasn't already crazy enough, the man had a pet bear.
Lies.
Named Bruno.
This guy might be my hero, not to mention the stunt that made him famous throughout the country.
He was able to stage a prize boxing match here on the Rio Grande. And since gambling on boxing was illegal in Texas and Mexico, well, Judge Roy Bean knew the law, so he found a way around it. Check this out. He held the fight in the Rio Grande River Valley.
What?
Yeah, he was able to dodge the laws of both the United States and Mexico. Made himself a pretty penny, evidently, as well.
The visitor center itself is also chock full of artifacts.
Oh, cool. Got his playing cards. Look, his old Smith & Wesson revolver. Cool. Hey, it's the giant book of legal statutes that he did not read. It's kind of like all those legal books I bought in law school. Yep.
While Judge Bean did have a reputation, well, there was a sweet spot hidden under that tough facade, both for the poor and for a certain world-famous opera singer named Lillian Langtry. He named his saloon in her honor and even built her an opera house in hopes of one day luring her to the town he claimed he named after her. Well, she did eventually make it to Langtry. Unfortunately, she was 10 months too late, as Judge Bean had passed away, leaving his life and legacy as one for the history books.
And you know, he may not have been the most conventional judge, but he was just the judge Wild West Texas needed. All right, so it is dinner time. Unfortunately, there is nowhere to eat in Langtry. So we're heading back to Comstock, where luckily there are 2 restaurants. We already ate at the first one. Time to go to the second one.
That's the J&P Bar and Grill. And the painter's tape sign says it best. Eat here.
Is this more of a destination place, or is it all the locals of Comstock and the area coming?
Kind of a little bit of everything.
Yep.
Locals, travelers, people that come to this area, hunters. There's a little bit of everybody in here.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So you could have a ranch hand sitting next to a PhD in archaeology.
Yeah, and our arrowhead digger on the other side of that.
This is Duke Gould. J&P are his parents, making this a full-on 2-generation operation.
My parents had a cafe back here in the late 80s, early 90s that burnt down and left nothing but a concrete slab, and we come back several years later and built this up.
From the ground up with love, not unlike their food, and the entire menu is fantastic.
Chicken fried steaks, that's my dad's homemade gravy. Put it on a flip-flop and eat it, I think.
I might try that.
As good as that may be, well, the burgers are the real showstopper.
The legend of y'all's burgers has spread far and wide. What's the secret to a good burger then?
Fresh ground meat, fresh ingredients.
So y'all grind y'all's own meat?
Yes, sir, in-house, every day. 100% ground brisket.
Ooh, well that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
If you love brisket as much as I do, well, you'll take it in any form you can. Bring on the burger.
Oh, all right, so here it is, folks. The Devil Burger. All right, so here we go. We got house ground brisket patty, topped with fresh jalapenos, pepper jack cheese, your regular veggies, and then right there, jalapeno cilantro mayo. Tell you the devil holds nothing back, but neither do I. Ooh, that's good. It's even on a ciabatta roll. A little change up from your normal burger. Incredibly well-seasoned patty. Jalapenos coming out every side of this thing. It's starting to sting. This burger right here could hold its own in any big city. Man, that's good.
What a day. And while it may seem like the middle of nowhere, well, Seminole Canyon, Comstock, and Langtry have been a somewhere for longer than almost anywhere else in Texas. The home of our earliest people, our oldest stories, and some of our biggest personalities. And to this day, West Texas remains as wild as they come.
Well, guys, I hope this episode shows you that there's a day trip in every corner of Texas. So from here in Comstock, vaya con Dios, amigos. And one thing out here that you have to look out for is that, you know, if you look out, we looked out. No matter what corner of Texas you trip to, you're guaranteed to find trippable things. I didn't know where that was going. Nope. 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 Maybe this way? This way? Nope.
Show me the gun. Bring up the pieces.
You never mess with a man carrying a sawed-off revolver. Howdy, y'all. Follow along with my adventures at Chet Tripper on Instagram and at The Day Tripper TV on Facebook and YouTube. Or head to thedaytripper.com for travel guides, past episodes, and info on our mobile app and Team Day Tripper. This episode was made for y'all with the help of our awesome partners. Check the caption for more info. Howdy, y'all. Chet the Day Tripper here. Thanks so much for tripping with us. Remember, while you're here, like this video, subscribe to our channel so that we can stay out there on the road and keep on tripping. Did we miss anything in this town? Leave us a comment, let us know. We love finding out about new stops with all of your tips. And if you love Epic Texas Day Trips, remember to check our channel. We got a lot of them on there. Also, don't forget, if you want some sweet Day Tripper merch or another cool Texas-made product, come see us in Georgetown at the Day Tripper World Headquarters. You can also shop online if you check the link down there in the caption. All right, y'all. Bye con Dios, amigos.